Hi, I'm Josh and welcome to D&DSL. I recently saw a video by Wernberg Club, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, about his, 10 by 10 encounter terrain piece with the X marks the spot. And I thought, well, I currently have to come down to deal with some visa fun, and so I got a couple of days back at home away from the in-laws and thought, why not give this a challenge myself? So I was going to make a downed drone. And I kept thinking like rotor blades for the X. And I was going to do something like a downed drone for Twilight 2000. But then I remembered I had these 1 to 350 scale Trumpter aircraft that I was going to use as a proxy, or use as proxies in our Battletech Alpha Strike games. So I went through them, and I think this Seahawk one, the rotor blades here with a nice little X. I thought, yeah, here we go. Let's make a downed chopper. Paint it white to maybe have like Comstar colors, or it could be a diplomatic VTOL. And let's get into it. I started by cutting a 10 by 10 piece of foam core. I also found that adding a layer of paint to the paper on the foam core made it much easier to peel off. Next, I unclipped my helicopter from the sprue and took some foam offcuts and started to arrange things to get an interesting layout. Once I was happy with the layout, I started to glue the foam offcuts into place with either a hot glue gun or some PVA, depending on how much I wanted to burn my fingers. Yeah, save your offcuts, folks. Waste not, want not. Okay, so I've got the basic idea of what I want to do, and here's the main body of this helicopter. So I'm going to put it down here like it's crashed, and with the X on top, like that. And there's a bunch of other parts on here. You can see on this extra sprue. These probably have them scattered around. I'm going to cut that tail as well, just to have extra pieces floating around everywhere to make it look like an actual crashed helicopter. According to the label, this stuff is gypsum powder, which I presume is pretty similar to modeling compound. Now, I've never used this stuff before, so I kind of just eyeballed it as I was mixing it up, and added in some of my dried tea leaves for good measure, and a little bit of roughage. While the base was drying, it was time to work on the chopper. Now, obviously this is a crashed helicopter, so I wanted it to look quite banged up. Unfortunately, my pin vise had decided to go on its own holiday, so I had to try some other tools. When the gypsum powder and tea leaf combo was dry, I gave this a nice coat of black paint and Mod Podge. Alright, so we've got a hammered little helicopter here. It is actually a bit too hollow for my liking. If you put it on here, you can quite see, even though like at a distance you probably see that it's kind of hollow. That's not too bad, but I think it might be a good idea to put some stuff in there. Still got a bit of this left over. And use it as kind of like a gap fill. It can be ugly, but that's kind of the point. There you go, that looks not too bad. Yeah, that should be alright. Probably put some super glue in to seal it all up. And then we'll start to move on to painting or dry brushing. Lots of dry brushing. So I started with some dark browns and then went on to some lighter browns and some greys. And of course I tied it all together with a black wash, focusing mainly on the lower areas of the base. So I've seen a couple of people try and use pastels as pigment powders. Unfortunately, the only pastels I could find around me are oil pastels. Alright, so rather than screw up that piece I just started making, let's see how these pigments, if this actually works with these pigments. Not really. Turning more to this grey flock. Alright, back to the drawing board on that one. So instead I gave those rocks another dry brush just to help them pop, and went back to working on the helicopter. When I was happy with how the helicopter looked, I glued it into place with some extra debris scattered around, and then I added some flock to represent some bushes. an extra coat of watered down PVA just to help secure that flock, and a little bit of super glue for the rotor, and then we're done. Well, I'm very happy with how that turned out. I like that gypsum modeling clay kind of stuff. I'm going to try that some more. It was a shame about the pastel idea. Like, I can only find oil pastels here, although that might be a translation issue, so I have to see about that. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe and share with your friends, and tell me, what do you use for a pigment powder? Do you just use the regular stuff from the hobby shop, or do you have some other substitute of your own?